So now that we've gone over some of the basics of setting up Canvas on your website, we can begin to start loading in some actual game components. And one of the first things that I want to load in is I want to load in an image. So we're going to be making a Pac-Man, a mini Pac-Man type game where we're going to have this Pac-Man, we're going to have a random ghost, and we're going to create a dot, and when the Pac-Man eats the dot, then he can eat the ghost. But if the ghost gets the Pac-Man without being blue or without being in the mode when the dot has been eaten, then the Pac-Man's going to lose. So we'll just do a quick kind of scoring game like that. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to use this PNG file. So this PNG file has a number of different modes, different icons here. So we've got our ghosts, and we've got our Pac-Man with the open mouth, closed mouth, and all the way down. So we're going to be using all of these, the blue ghosts as well. So let's begin with bringing in that image into our canvas. So in the last lesson we talked about how to set up our canvas and how to bring it in with JavaScript. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start removing out some of this here, and I'm going to change CTX to context. And we're going to keep this, we're going to be setting up that size here of height of 400, width of 600. So this is a good beginning for what we're going to have within the game. So what I want to do now is actually I want to load in the image. So I want to set up a brand new image. So I'm going to do main image, and I'm going to equal it to new image. And then again, I'm going to use that same object. So main image is my object. Actually, this should be an equal sign. And I'm going to do when main image is ready, so when it's loaded, so by default I want to have a false here. And I'm going to change it to true once it gets loaded. And main image ready, or we're going to call this on load. So when the image finishes loading, we're going to run a particular function. And this function is going to check to make sure that it's ready, and if it's ready it's going to set the ready to true, and it's going to launch the game rendering function. So on load, check, ready. So this is going to be our function that's going to check to see if things are ready. And then over here is main image. So this is going to be the source of that image. So I'm going to use that same one that we were just looking at earlier. It's just called pack.png. So again, just to review what's happening here, so I'm setting up a new image object, and I'm giving it ready, I'm changing to false by default, and when the image loads, it's going to run the function check ready, and it's going to use the source pack.png as the source. So this means that I need to create that function here called check ready. Now we're not going to pass anything there in that function. And then I can just do this ready, and I can set that to true. And I'm going to have another function within here. I'm going to call that play game. So once the image is loaded, it's going to end up running this function that's just going to do play game. I could probably simplify it as well, just maybe put play game here when it's ready and loaded. But just in case I want to do something else, I'm going to actually keep that within this function. So this is kind of preparing it for expanding for later possible expansion that might be required within this game. And I'm just going to beautify that. So now we need to create one more function, and it's going to be the play game function. And what this one is going to do is this is going to be the starting the game, the launching the game, that type of function. So again, just function, play game. So everything in here is once the game gets started. So once our images are loaded, then we can do whatever else we need to do in here. We launch this function that's play game, and this function is actually going to launch one more function. It's going to be called render. And we're also going to be including the loop in here as well within the play game method, and we're going to be getting into that later on. So what the render is, this is actually going to be where we're actually going to output the content on within our canvas, and this is just going to be called function render. And so for now, what I want to do is I'm going to do context fill style, and I'm going to give it a color. And I'm just going to give it a color of black. So just for now, we're going to start out with this black background color, and I'm going to quickly go over what we've just talked about as well. So black. And now I have to do the actual fill of the rectangle, so much like what we looked at before. So I'm going to start this off at 0.00, and I'm going to bring it all the way up. So here we have our numbers. So when we do fill rectangle, we need to have all four corner numbers. So we need to have the X, the Y, the W, and the H. So the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, this is going to be the width and then the height. And with width and height, we can actually use this canvas width and canvas height, so that because we do want to fill up the entire canvas. And of course, if you didn't want to fill the entire canvas, you would adjust this accordingly. Now we're just going to go back out to the page, and there's not that much happening right now. We've got our black rectangle, it's filled black. So just to show you again, so we could literally have whatever color we feel we want. So we can use hexadecimal, we can use RGB as well, and this will update the entire background. And going back over what we've set up here, so to recap, so this is what we looked at in the previous lesson, where we created the canvas context 2D, we appended it to the body tag within the HTML. We set canvas height of 400, width of 600, so probably just going to swap these around, because normally we do width and then we do height. And then here we're just doing an image load, so we're setting up main image, giving it an object of image. We're doing ready, which is going to be false. So this is something that we can or cannot use, again, depending on what we're doing later on and how we're scaling it. We might want to know that we do have a value here of main image ready that will tell us if this image is loaded. So if we're loading multiple images, then we do want to have that ability in order to tell that this image is loaded and other images have loaded as well. So again, this is for if we want to build that out. So over here we're doing main image on load, and what's happening here, once the on load is complete, it's going to run this method called check ready, which is just over here, and this is here where we do the flipping the switch of false to true, and then we run one more function within here, and this is the function. And again, this is going on for scaling and upgrading within the code later on. So right now it probably looks a little bit strange that we probably could have just done render when it's on load, so we don't necessarily need those at this moment. But I've added them in because we are going to be using them and working with them as we progress through this course. So what's happening here is all we're doing is we're connecting back to that canvas that we built originally up here, and we've got a few built-in functions here. So fill style, so this is giving us the color that we're going to fill it, and then here we're doing a fill rectangle, and these are the dimensions of the rectangle that we're filling up. So in the next lesson we're going to get into some really exciting stuff. We're going to start bringing through that image, and then we're going to be doing some really cool stuff, making the images move around and so on. So this is coming up in the upcoming lessons, as well as we're going to build in the actual game loop and perform some functionality there as well.